to another episode of the MemcycoFM show. And, if you're listening to this right now, chances are you're a CISO or you're leading a security team, and you are constantly on the lookout for those really smart, forward-thinking solutions.
Oh, absolutely. The kind of tech that actually solves problems instead of just creating more alerts.
Exactly. And that's why today is going to be so much fun. We're keeping things incredibly upbeat. This isn't, your typical doom and gloom cybersecurity warning about how the sky is falling.
Right. We get enough of that already.
Yeah, exactly. Today is an exciting look at a truly modern, elegant solution to what has historically been a really complex, painful problem. We're doing a deep dive into some source material from Memcyco today.
And it's a great topic.
It really is. Our mission for this deep dive is to focus on the challenge of remote desktop takeover detection. So basically, how do you stop remote access fraud, like literally as it unfolds, without bogging down your security teams, and this is the big one, disrupting normal business operations?
Yeah, and to give everyone the big picture context right up front, what we're talking about here is a fundamental shift in how we defend environments because, the traditional approach has always been about relying on logs, right?
Right.
Doing post-compromise transaction monitoring. And the reality is, if you're relying on that, you are detecting the fraud way too late. The damage is already done. So the really exciting shift we're looking at today is moving to a near zero mean time to detection, or MTTD.
Near zero. I love the sound of that.
It's the holy grail, right? And you achieve that by actually identifying the remote control during the active session itself while the user is logged in.
Okay, let's unpack this, because before we can really appreciate how brilliant the Memcyco solution is, we need to understand why these remote access scams are just, completely bypassing legacy security tools.
They really do. It's a huge blind spot.
It is. And the way I like to think about it is, traditional security is kind of like a heavy vault door at a bank, right? It's thick, it's impenetrable. But remote access scams are like the vault owner just cheerfully walking the bank robber right inside and unlocking it for them.
That is a brilliant analogy.
Because, think about it, the scammers are using legitimate tools, right, like AnyDesk or TeamViewer, and they're using social engineering to get the victim to install them. So, from the system's perspective, the device fingerprint perfectly matches.
The IP address is their normal residential network.
Exactly. And the MFA push a notification. It succeeds because the genuine user is literally sitting right there tapping approve on their phone.
Right. And what's fascinating here is what Memcyco calls the trust trap. That's the core concept.
The trust trap?
Yeah, because the attack is originating from the victim's own trusted device. And on their own trusted network, all your traditional security controls just look at it and say, yep, that's our legitimate user.
Everything looks perfectly fine.
Exactly. And this specifically creates what we call blind sessions.
Oh man, blind sessions are a nightmare for the SOC.
A total nightmare. Because think about the massive investigation overhead this creates for your security operations center. Your analysts are looking at a log that says a perfectly trusted device logged in, passed MFA, transferred a huge sum of money, and logged out.
And they're sitting there trying to reverse engineer why a trusted device suddenly just went completely rogue.
Right. They have absolutely zero technical indicators showing that a third party was actually driving the mouse. It's invisible.
Okay, so that brings up a really obvious question, and I'll play devil's advocate for a second.
Sure, go for it.
If this malicious activity looks exactly like legitimate activity, and the bad guys are using off-the-shelf tools like AnyDesk, well, what does this mean for the business? Because if a CISO just says, all right, I'm blocking AnyDesk and TeamViewer entirely across the whole organization.
Oh, they can't do that.
Right. They're going to completely break their own IT support desk. They'll frustrate genuine users who need remote help. So how do we actually balance stopping this fraud with preventing, massive operational disruption?
That is the million-dollar question, right? And this is where Memcyco's non-intrusive precision approach comes in. It's incredibly elegant because it absolutely does not block remote tools globally.
Okay, that's a relief for the IT folks listening.
Huge relief. It also doesn't rely on application signatures, and it doesn't try to inspect network traffic or monitor specific ports.
Wait, really? Because usually that's exactly how you catch unauthorized software.
Right, but remote desktop protocols are notoriously noisy and they're heavily encrypted. If you try to catch them at the network layer, you're just going to drown in false positives. And crucially, Memcyco also stays away from privacy-invading behavioral biometrics.
You mean like analyzing typing cadence or how someone moves their mouse?
No, Exactly. Behavioral biometrics sound great in theory, but they are highly probabilistic. If your user drinks 3 cups of coffee and types a little faster today, the system might lock them out. It creates a lot of friction.
Oh, yeah. Nobody wants to get locked out of their accounts just because they had an espresso. So if we aren't looking at network traffic and we aren't measuring how fast they type, what are we looking at?
Instead, it looks exclusively at browser and session level telemetry.
Okay, the actual browser environment.
Yes, and it only does this during sensitive interactions. So we're talking about during the authentication flow or when a user's performing high-risk tasks like a password reset or initiating a wire transfer.
And what about that legitimate IT support session we were worried about breaking?
This is the best part. Legitimate IT support sessions are automatically learned and suppressed over time. The system uses a contextual engine to baseline what your normal authorized help desk activity looks like, and it whitelists it, so you get zero disruption to your normal operations.
Here's where it gets really interesting to me. It's just so brilliant to ignore all the noise of network inspection and focus purely on the context of the session, right there in the browser.
It's a complete paradigm shift.
But I have to ask, how does this actually translate to day-to-day operations for the CISO's fraud and security teams?
Yeah.
Like, what does the analyst actually see?
Well, it all comes down to real-time signal correlation. Memcyco takes that browser-level indicator, like the microscopic rendering artifact that a screen-sharing tool leaves behind, and it correlates it with other critical data points.
Like, what kind of data points?
It looks at device continuity, it looks at session integrity, and of course the authentication context we just mentioned.
So it's cross-referencing all these things simultaneously?
In milliseconds,
Yeah,
yes. By cross-referencing these specific data points, Memcyco delivers immediate, high-fidelity signals directly to the fraud teams. And it does this while the session is still active.
Wow. So you're not waiting until the next day to run a log report.
No, you know right now. And for the listener, the direct value here is huge. Protective actions are only triggered when multiple high-confidence signals align.
Which means, let me guess, the false positive rate just plummets.
Exactly. It slashes false positives, it reduces those blind sessions we talked about down to zero, and it drastically cuts investigation overhead right from day one. Your analysts aren't chasing ghosts anymore. They are looking at verified high-risk events.
That is just, I mean, that's a game changer for a stretched security team. But, okay, detecting the fraud in real time is fantastic, obviously. But let's say the attacker was poking around during that remote session before we caught them.
Mm-hmm.
What happens to the credentials that the attacker might have captured? Because, they're watching the screen. Maybe they log the keystrokes.
Right, the credential replay threat?
Yes. Because it's as if the scammer thinks they've stolen the master key to the building, right? They retreat, they wait a few days, and then the moment they try to use that key to sneak back in, we secretly swap it with a piece of plastic.
I love that. A piece of plastic. That perfectly describes the secret sauce of Memcyco's credential replay protection.
Okay, tell me how this works, because it sounds almost like magic.
It is very cool. So when an attacker tries to reuse those stolen credentials across accounts later on, Memcyco detects that reuse attempt because it remembers that the request is originating from devices or browser profiles that were previously linked to that malicious remote access activity.
Oh, so it built a threat profile on the scammer during the first attack.
Exactly. And this is where the process of decoy substitution comes in. When that scammer tries to log in, Memcyco swaps those exposed credentials with decoys right at the point of authentication.
Wait, really? So what does the attacker see? Do they know they've been caught?
Not at all. To the attacker, it looks like a successful login. They think they're in, but they're actually trapped in a synthetic, useless decoy session.
That is amazing. You're just totally wasting their time.
You're wasting their time, and you're keeping your real users completely safe. Furthermore, Memcyco packages this entire event into verified victim and device intelligence, and it delivers it directly to your SOC and fraud systems.
So it's feeding that raw, verified threat intel right back into the organization's broader defenses.
Precisely. And this threat intelligence allows teams to completely automate their response to account takeover or ATO attempts. You don't need a human analyst to manually freeze the account or lock out the attacker. The system handles it automatically based on that verified signal.
It's proactive defense at its absolute best. Let's take a second to just briefly recap this journey for the CISOs listening, because we covered a lot of ground.
We definitely did.
We started by looking at the frustration of blind sessions and the whole trust trap, where legacy tools just totally failed to see the social engineering happening.
Right.
And then we move to this elegant real-time signal correlation that cuts investigation overhead without breaking legitimate IT support.
Which is huge for business continuity.
Massive. And finally, we went all the way to actively neutralizing credential replay with those brilliant decoys.
You know, if we connect this to the bigger picture for a second, I want to leave everyone with a broader thought to mull over.
Oh, please do.
Think about the dark web economy, right? It runs on the reliability of stolen credentials. But if solutions like decoy substitution can seamlessly turn stolen credentials into useless traps in real time, how might this strategy of feeding attackers these fakeouts completely ruin the economics of credential theft?
Oh, wow.
Yeah, if an access broker sells a list of passwords and every single one just leads the buyer into a synthetic sandbox, trust in that illicit marketplace just evaporates. You're not just defending your own perimeter, you are making the attacks financially unviable for the bad guys.
You are literally bankrupting the business model of cybercrime. I absolutely love that perspective. Well, listen, if you want to see these next big thing in tech innovations for yourself and learn how to see the attacker before the damage even starts, we highly recommend you book a demo to see the Memcyco solution in action. It's time to disrupt the fraud before the money moves. Thank you so much for joining us, and we will catch you on the next deep dive.